Green square. Okay, OBS says I'm live. Okay, Twitch shows I'm live. And what title does Twitch show? Yeah, the title is correct. Nice. It changed quality? Oh. Well, it doesn't really matter. Right. So today... Oh, I just woke up. I overslept a little bit today. Well, that's why I'm starting a little bit later than usual. But I overslept for a good reason. I got a solid 8 hours of sleep today. I don't yet feel like it. But looking at the clock, I got 8 hours of sleep. I wish I slept more, but well, I feel like I could have slept more, but the neighbor's dog decided that enough is enough and it's time to wake up. And so I'm here, streaming. And I have some, okay, I have some interesting ideas. So theme for today's stream will be singleton. I think, let's see, singleton meta. This is, well, so this implementation, this example, yeah, definitely, it says singleton. Well, I guess we should start at the beginning. What is singleton? So singleton pretty much means that there's only one of it. Single. Well, that's where single comes from. So, kind of hint is in the name. So, Python patterns guide. Okay, that seems like a solid website, at least judging by the name. Let's see, what does it say? Python programmers also almost never implement the singleton pattern as described in the Gang of 4 books. Okay. Design patterns. Can be hard to remember, but object-oriented programming was all the rage back in the 90s. Instead of talking about the power of first-class functions and general-purpose data structures, many programs were festooning their code with virtual methods, superclasses, subclasses, and clever mixins. Programmers often found that language limitations and static types were blocking them out of improvements they later wanted to make to their code. Okay. Yeah, those advanced features. I'm trying to remember what kind of advanced feature Oh yeah, those predicates. That brings me. But yeah, this is not that type of feature, language feature. That was predicate is just a style. But well, programmers often found language limitations. Yeah, static types. The Gang of 4 wrote to the rescue. Okay, the book wrote to the rescue. Okay, that's an interesting way of expressing it. Their book's first and most fundamental pattern, blazoned across. What? I don't know this word. I will do a quick intermission at the very beginning to go and look what it means. Display prominently or vividly. Blazon? So this sounds French. Describe or depict armorial bearings in a correct heraldic manner. Heraldry. The hell is heraldry? The system by which coats of arms and other armorial bearings are devised. Described and regulated. Okay. Heraldic manner. Okay. So that's not that that's not the meaning they meant, I imagine, when they were using it, talking about a book about programming. Blazoned across the page in italics would if practiced consistently, break programmers free of code that was hard wired to concrete classes. Let's see. It says some authors. I don't see anything in italics. Not really sure what he means by that. Oh, program to an interface, not an implementation. Yeah, I agree with that. At the expense of more code, this practice moved programmers one step towards the freedom we enjoy in dynamic language like Python. Each of the book's further chapter tackles a different design conundrum posed by the era's limited programming languages and solved it. Okay, so it portrays it as a Python as a cure to most of the issues people had, which I'm not really sure. Okay, so, but the book is not irrelevant. They're talking about what is singleton. So this implementation I don't really like. I won't use this one. It's meant for having one instances of a specific, what is the initialization? It takes all super and inherits from type. Not really sure why it inherits from type. What's the benefit of that? We'll use the meta class because it is best suited for this purpose. Methods include base class, decorator, meta class. Okay. But getting back to singleton pattern, yeah. Blah blah blah. Whose singleton class forbids normal instantiation and instead offers a class method that returns a singleton instance. Python is more elegant and lets a class continue to support the normal syntax for instantiation while defining a custom new method. Oh, so yeah, we will just define this new. It won't have a, well, how it used to be, well, how I've seen it implemented in other languages and way back when I was working as a normal developer. So what people used to do is, let's say we have, where should I make it? Probably just in the root source folder next to all of this stuff. Or maybe in classes. Nah. And let's make a new file. singleton.py and make a class. Yeah, now what should I call it? Should I call it singleton? I can, but it would be more descriptive because let's stick to this. So what people used to do, and what I've seen being done, is define a method. Let's say get instance without any parameters, and it well, what it would do is check for, let's see, it would have an internal variable. Let's see, should I do this? Instance none, and if so how it would be done, well, that so what this method is used for is to get the instance of the same instance that is wait, how does it do it with yeah, it has init. Yeah, I think it implemented in the constructor this as well. Yeah, this could be a constructor. So, wait, does it need a parameter? Looks like it does. So what it will do is check, let's say, yeah, so this would check if an instance is none. So let's see, if self instance is none, so meaning there's nothing assigned, like the default value is there, then it will assign itself. Well, in Python's case, it will assign itself. So it will be self instance equals self. Yeah. I think that's how it would work. Yeah, so if it's nothing, it has nothing assigned, it assigns itself. If and in other case, it will just return self instance like this, and the constructor would well, despite, well, amongst other things, at the very end it will return get instance. Would it? I don't remember. Oh yeah, I think it has to be abstract. Yeah. So we haven't actually talked about abstract methods. Does it mention it anywhere here? I think in the example I looked, it has. No, it doesn't have any abstract methods. So we had a class call possibly change to value of the init argument do not affect the returned instance. So it checks, well, it has a dictionary, so it checks if the class I'm looking for, like, it's like a manager of singletons. This is more like manager of multiple instances, well, multiple uh, singletons. So this is how they, well, how this will work. So it will call type super. Basically, it's this is a way to call your in the inheritance, how you call your parents' methods by calling super. So this returns instance of the type you're inheriting from. So then, yeah, if it doesn't find it, then it calls the constructor of the parent and assigns that instance to that dictionary, which is does it use it like this? Oh, so it's self. Yes. Instead of using self, well, it says CLS, so class. Okay, well, everyone uses self, and this like, are these different? Does this not have a parameter? Doesn't have it? It takes self as first parameter. Somehow doesn't seem right. I'm missing something. It feels like. So it takes as meta class. Oh, so it assigns this as its meta class. What is a meta class? Okay. Meta class is something new to me as well. Python meta class. Meta classes. Yeah, let's read about these. What's the difference? Old style, new style. It's always good to see. Metaprogramming refers to potential for programs to have knowledge of or multiple of what? Refers to potential for a program to have knowledge of or manipulate itself. So knowledge of itself. Python supports a form of metamorphing metaprogramming for classes called metaclasses. Metaclasses are an esoteric object-oriented concept lurking behind virtually all Python code. You're using them whenever you're aware of it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. For the most part, you don't need to be aware of it. Most Python programmers rarely, if ever, have to think about metaclasses. When the need rises, however, Python provides a capability that not all object-oriented languages support. You can get under the hood and define custom metaclasses. Oh yeah, I forgot to test the chat. Sure, it's working fine. Right. Can get under the hood. The use of custom metaclasses is somewhat controversial, as suggested by the following quote from Tim Peters, the Python guru who authored the Zen of Python. Metaclasses are a deeper magic than 99% of users should ever worry about. If you wonder whether you need them, you don't. The people who actually need them know with certainty that they need them and don't need an explanation about why. Okay, that's encouraging. So that's another downside of this example. It uses metaclass, which is apparently a very niche, very specific feature. When the but the singleton pattern kind of wants it like where was it? I managed to lose it. I have too many things open, I think. This is an example. Actually, I want to keep that example open. Where was it? No, this is where I'm looking definitions. What happened to it? It just disappeared. Okay, let's continue reading this, I guess. Wait, I googled about the singleton. Definitely, I must have closed it. Okay. Gang of 4, and this is Logforge that. Okay. Method that returns the singleton instance, but an even more Pythonic approach if your design forces you to offer global access to singleton object is to use the global object pattern instead. Okay, let's see what this means. Like several other scripting languages, Python parses the outer level of each module as a normal code. Unintended assignment statements, expressions, and even loops and conditionals will execute as the module is imported. This presents an excellent opportunity to supplement a module's classes and functions with constants and data structures that callers will find useful. So they have global object path. So this is a pattern? Like I thought it was just bad design to have. Okay. This presents an excellent opportunity to supplement a method's modules, classes, and functions with constants and data structures that callers will find useful. It also offers dangerous temptations. Mutable global objects can wind up coupling distant code, and input-output operations impose important time, expense, and side effects. Okay. So our singleton will have all of that, pretty much. Because my intention is that when I have, the singleton will be managing the configurations. And well, that's the most important part. Also, with all the global variables, because what it should solve, how I will use it. I will solve all of these. Like this shouldn't be a thing. Imagine this whole method, init config, check config, update config. This will be included in the singleton itself, as well as these values, like these constants. I don't think it's a good place for them, but I'm still not sure. Oh, this is just an alias. Oh yeah, actually, what this is, user, and this is language. So yeah, we don't really need these anymore, in theory, because we defined a data class. So let's see where it was used. It was used here. Oh, it was used for in user context. So yeah, user context is the other thing that the singleton will manage. So we'll implement another data class for user context, and that instance of user context will be managed by the singleton. So we always get the same instance when we need it. well, we need to operate on the user context. Let's see. Yeah, for each user there will be a different context, and yeah, just need to take into account that from time to time I will need to remove something from the context. Well, when the user hasn't interacted with the bot for a long time, it should reset. Well, bot should forget about the user. Right. But the issue is that the user doesn't, if the user hasn't interacted with the bot for like an hour or two, then he won't be interacting for a day or two or a week or even months or ever. So, and I can't keep this context, well, I can't keep his context in memory, well, assigned to a variable basically, but it translates into being in memory. So to save on memory, when anyone messages a bot, it will check what kind of context it has. It will go through all the contexts it currently holds, and the ones that have been used used in it haven't been used for longer than an hour or two. I think it's an hour at the moment. Yeah, 3600 seconds. Yeah, that's an hour. So it haven't been used for an hour. It will just delete them from the. It's probably gonna be a dictionary with user ID, because that's how get user and user context. Yeah, it creates a new dictionary for that user. And how do we get user context if it's already initiated? Get user data. So that's user context. So get user data returns user's context. Let's take a look. Where does it come from? Oh, in users. So this is where it holds. So it just returns. So users, global users variable. So that's gonna be held by. Oh, this is so confusing. So users dictionary. I imagine this is a dictionary. Well, it is being called as a dictionary. So see, its declaration. Yeah, it is a dictionary. Oh, this is so dumb. This is not how it should be done at all. Right. Yeah, because and the naming of it the dictionary itself is called users, even though it actually holds contexts, all full contexts of the users, which include the user itself. So user is in the context, that contexts are kept by the users list. Okay. Maybe that's an indication that context should be moved into the user itself. Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. Right. Menu, get start menu. Yeah, this is all good. So language is no longer used anywhere. Or is it? Actually, it isn't. Because I don't get any errors. So if I delete only the language, it still works fine. Okay, let's keep this user still going so I can run the code. And let's implement the singleton first. Yeah. So return get instance Oh yeah, I think it doesn't work like this because I think it has to have abstract. No, is it abstract? Don't remember. Wow, I don't remember these basic concepts anymore about object-oriented programming. Let's see about this. Global object model. Every Python module is a separate namespace. A module like JSON can offer a loads function without conflicting with replacing or writing the completely different loads function defined over in the pickle method, okay. Separate namespaces are crucial to making programming languages tractable. Python modules were not separate namespaces. You would be unable to read or write Python code by keeping your attention focused on the module in front of you. A line of code might use or still in conflict with okay, so kind of this is going very basic. Two patterns use module globals but are important enough to warrant their own articles. Rebound methods are generated when a module builds an object and then assigns one or more of the object's bound methods to names at the module's global level. This is very... So it goes from explaining how package context works and what it's saying. It's not context, it's I know there's a name for this. Not a namespace. It's basically the levels of how deep you go, like logical levels. I think it's called namespaces. So, well, so yeah, namespaces. Yeah, so okay, so that's what it was talking about. So namespace is basically an area where the code is accessible. The variables are well, the whole context holding all the variables and methods, and everything is the same. Well, as a quick example, let's say we have a method with some logic in it. So this would be one, like the namespace that the function shares. So everything that is accessible in the function will have this. But if you go into this for loop, this is a different namespace. So if I declare something a equals 1 here in this loop, that a won't be accessible outside of it. So if I go here at the end and wanna print a, yeah, it will complain. It should complain that it doesn't know what a is, and it doesn't. Well, I imagine at runtime it will not context options list. Get text options list. Let's see if it will actually do that. I wonder. I think it will crash here saying that a has no assigned value. Or maybe it will be assigned in this context. That is why menu list is defined here. Even though I actually assign a value inside this for list, well, I construct it using like this loop. It has to be declared here because in the outermost namespace, well, at the root level, that's why the indentation, like basically the namespace is shared by methods in one group of space. Well, not sure how to call this. Let's call it space. Oh, well, these are two tabs. It should be. Well, it's replaced by space bars, but white space. So if you're at the same level, oh yeah, should probably, it's a good idea to test this. Did it show up? Wait, the whole chat is overlaid. It's not transparent anymore. What happened? Yeah. This isn't right. Let's see. Custom select color from green color. Okay. So color changed for some reason. Oh, I added a plugin. And okay, now I remember the plugin to make well, dark themed everything, so it switches colors around on the browser. And this is a browser window. The chat is open in the browser, so okay, that affected that. Okay. Wish I knew that earlier. No, good thing I decided to test it at all. Right. So now when this is done, right. So let's see if this will actually work. I'm betting that it doesn't. Oh yeah, singleton. Save all of this. This. Okay. Well, it doesn't actually use the singleton class, so it just, for now, it's just a file. So it doesn't actually have to be interpreted correctly. It doesn't have to be a valid Python code at the moment, so. But I don't like squiggly lines and errors showing up in my code. And I'm looking for Discord. Where's my Discord? Oh, I haven't opened Discord today yet. Let's see. Hack into SBI API and fix even bigger spaghetti they have there. What are they talking about? It is a very suspicious link. Do I want to open it? Simple, easy game, easy life, deal with it, GIF. Sounds like it should be a GIF. Let's see what this website is about. Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. Well, you can hire. Can do the same. Seem to know. How to do it, so I'll leave it to you. Right. And I'm actually looking for testbot. See? Yeah, it crashed. Yes. Okay, so the editor itself is not smart enough to realize that A is in a different namespace. So even though it was assigned a value, oh, Okay, that's bad. Well, I guess I'm proven wrong here. So apparently it doesn't matter that A is change the name or A. Why does it work like this? Okay. I guess I assign this default value. That's it. So if it doesn't have any translation, it has nothing to show. It will assign something. So that's interesting. I didn't know that this is how it worked. I expected it like in other languages, you can't access variables declared and values assigned to them inside the, well, if the variable was declared outside the loop, it will be accessible. It won't be accessible outside the loop when the loop ends, and this is, yeah, so this is outside the loop already. So in other languages this wouldn't work, and apparently Python it does, which is cool, I guess. What run? Where is it? Test. So yeah, it returned everything and nothing crashed, and I got end 1. And it called get text options list. Okay, well I guess I stand corrected. I'll do all of this. Oh. There are no changes, it's all good. Okay, I guess that's good to know, at least. My understanding is corrected. Let's see. Global object patterns. Load separate namespace, blah blah blah. So I guess namespace just means, in this case, a namespace would be like a class, like something you import. So it's like a it's not a package, but something like that, the one file. So helper, classes, date, time, and so on. Language tractable. Blah blah blah. Pre-bound methods. And this is something I don't know about. A powerful technique for offering callables at the top level of your module that share state through a common object. There are occasions on which a Python module wants to offer several routines in the module's global namespace that will need to share state with each other at runtime. Probably the most famous example is the instant library random module. While it does provide advanced users with the option to build their own random instance, most programmers opt for the convenient slate of routines available in the module's global namespace, like random range, random init, random integer, rand range, and choice, that mirror the methods of random object. How they share a state. Okay. Random. Get seed. So seed is this. This is just declared without the class. Okay. So the file itself. Why do you want them to share the seed though? I guess for, well, not really sure. I'm sure there is a reason. I just don't know it. Oh, alternatives. So how these callbars are in fact methods that have all been bound ahead of time to a single instance of random, and the module itself has gone ahead and constructed. After reviewing the problem that the pre-bound methods pattern solves, we will see how the pattern looks in Python code. Oh, so this is the most primitive approach. Okay, so we have a variable and like top level assign the value. So when this module gets loaded, all of this gets executed. Well, this will be executed and the definitions will be loaded into the current namespace. So they become accessible through whatever this file is. However, it is important. Okay, first, it is possible to ever essentially the second copy of this random number generator. Okay. Second, it's more difficult to duplicate your random number generators. That's for each other. Oh yeah, testing. That's something I need to address as well, because there are 0 tests now. Most difficult to decouple random number generator tests from each other. If the generator state is global, instead of each test getting to create and exercise a separate isolated instance, the test will all have a single generator and currently correctly reset its state before the next test runs. Okay. Oh, there's a third. This approach abandons encapsulation. Sound like a fuzzier complaint than the previous two. Well, no, encapsulation is very well. It can detract from readability. For a small tight system of 2 functions and the seed to be split out as 3 separate and not obviously related names in a module which might contain dozens of other objects. Yeah, well, it can, but oh yeah, module. The file is called a module in Python. I just can't remember these names. The file is a file. Yeah, well, I guess a package can have multiple files or modules, whichever you prefer. Right, to solve the above problems, we the 2 functions and wrap them up as methods. So yeah, this is what you would do when you create a normal class, but now it can't be just called willy-nilly. Global. You have to initiate an instance of the class before you can call these methods. So let's see how that is solved. This imposes an extra step, which will have to initiate. Yeah, that's what it is. Good morning, Risk. I actually got a decent amount of sleep today. Well, I slept for 8 hours or so, so I'm feeling really good. Well, at least looking at the watch, I slept for 8 hours. Otherwise, I don't really feel like I'm fully rested, but definitely better than yesterday. And what about you? How are you feeling today? I had some great ideas. Oh, I can't wait to share them with you. I think you will be really excited. I think this might even be more exciting than when I then I decided that I will be doing this. Yeah, I have some really. Yeah, let me open up my notes. Where are they? Oh yeah, here they are. Okay, I have everything open in front of my face. Right. Well, let's see. Have you heard of pair programming? Are you aware of it? Do you know what it is? Oh, I have it. Just came from the doc for the second checkup. Okay, how did it go? What did he say? And I know about pair programming. Pre-bound methods patterns in particularly good fit for random number generation. Okay. Okay, these are the reasons. So let's look how it looks. Date import. Oh. Oh, so this is how it's done. Okay. Yep. Yep. You mean yep as in you know what pair programming is? Users will now be able to invoke each method as though... Yeah, so it declares some variables. Well, the cool thing in Python that I'm not really used to, but I definitely use it myself and find it very useful. I feel good now. Only to avoid some things. Rest is all good. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad to hear. Coding in groups. Yes, it is coding in groups. So I was thinking, would it be something interesting? Like, I think it would be kind of exciting to share code. So, since I stream in coding and I stream, well, my streams are hopefully educational, especially for those who don't know coding, as well as they are educational for me myself, because there's a ton of things I still need to learn myself about Python in particular, and some other advanced concepts. I think it would be a cool idea if I could, well, because I don't think it's all that interesting to just watch, and you won't actually learn that much about programming from just looking at someone else's code. You actually need to do some coding yourself. So what I'm thinking is maybe creating a project that could have well, I still need to think of a direction for the project, but would you be interested in doing that? For example, I showcase how well, yesterday's stream was a really good example because I showcased data classes and how they work in Python, what they are, how to implement them, and so on. So I could create a project in GitHub, showcase how to connect to it, how to do commits, how to get latest updates, and so on. And people like you, like, well, I'm thinking about you in particular, because well, you're here, you're the most regular viewer, and you're interested in coding as well. So this could be a way to, well, instead of when you want to show something off, sending me like a file through Discord, we could just share it through the GitHub project, and I could design a simple project as well, yeah, that you could work on. Well, not well, like for example, like I need multiple data classes, like not well, I'm still working on that, but I think the idea is good, and I think it has legs. I know how to use GitHub, so it won't be an issue. Well, I don't know how to use GitHub, to be honest. I never used, well, I used GitHub in more than 10 years ago. So, well, Git is a different thing. Git is one thing, and GitHub is completely different, because GitHub is actually Git wrapped in within another system that provides a bunch of other tools as well. So you can manage tasks and so on, like you can do a bunch of things with GitHub, but that I would need to familiarize myself with. But to initiate a project, yeah, that would be quite easy. So for example, today I'm looking into implementing another concept that's very, well, it's like a pattern. So if you can't tell by the name, it's singleton pattern. I'm not sure if you know about it or not. I'm just looking in different ways people implement it in Python now, because the way I used to well, the way I've seen it implemented before is a little bit different because it was done in different languages. So, and Python has specific features that cater to that kind of design. So yeah, things like these, where you define a class and you bind its, well, you create an instance, like, well, this underscore or syntax, this means like the variable should be private, well, shouldn't be accessed outside the class. Well, it's not the class, it's module, yeah. Like my phrasing is not, like, the terminology is not 100% the same, because I still don't understand why they call the file a module. Well, I guess it is a module, but it is a file, like it already has a name. Like Python source code file is called a module. So yeah, each of these files, like main, menu, helper, singleton, new bot, like all of these are called modules in Python. I just call them files. Well, I guess the module means specifically a Python file of Python code that can be imported, and, well, this, because that's how I import them, menu, helper, and so on. Config file, okay, so those are built in, but yeah, user, well, yeah, the user is actually declared in an interesting way. Yeah, this is where it is declared. This one is empty, if I remember correctly. I think I can actually delete this classes. They have, I think it's fine. We'll just have in it only one module. And init is a special module that, well, that's not really important at the moment. Right. What I want to implement is a singleton in a very good way. But yeah, I like, well, I'm glad that you're interested in that idea. If you have a suggestion, like one project we could, like, but we need a project. It has to have direction, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's just pointless having to write code without a direction. You know about init. Okay, that's good. Well, init, it's a little bit annoying because you probably are thinking about init as in a class like this, about this init. So this init and this init are very different things. Because if there's a file inside the package, like, so this is, the folder is the package. So if the package has a Python, well, a file, a Python file named init, like, well, the same way, .py, it treats as, well, you access it without, well, just importing a class. So it's slightly different things, but it doesn't really matter at the moment. But I really like that you're up to doing some exercises, and you know, so the benefit. So let's talk about why you should be interested. Well, I'm glad that you are already interested in that, but I want to talk a little bit more how I envision it. What's the benefit? Because if I come up with an idea and let people commit code, well, it doesn't have to be me, but basically if there's a project, so it would be like a startup open source project driven by my viewers, let's say. And yeah, what kind of, so to get the most out of it, to get the most benefits, because the best so most beneficial to you, in my opinion, it would be if you, for example, go, especially now when you're just a student and you don't really have that much work experience, if you go for an interview for a job, if you can show and say that, okay, I worked on this open source project which does so and so and is being maintained and so on. So like that could be a very big plus to you, that you were actually involved in some project that's out there in the world that actually does something and is useful. So I think that would be like that would be the maximum amount of value you could get from this. So I wanted to make something solid. I wanted to have a direction, like a specific project that's meant to do something very specific, and that could actually be used by users. Oh, actually, I come up, I come up with a very cool project as well. Yeah, yesterday I was having quite a few brainstorming sessions, let's say. So my pitch would be for that project. Well, this is the first time I'm verbalizing it, but imagine, well, this came about when I saw a VPN advertisement. But basically, what I want is to implement an open source VPN project, which isn't new. So I imagine there are plenty of open source VPN projects. So we could peek around and look how they are implemented and implement our own version. But the twist would be that we want the community to be dynamic. Well, it doesn't have to, we wouldn't be renting servers or so on. We would be using each other's bandwidth for VPNs, because what VPN essentially does is, well, people really care about privacy, their privacy online these days, even though VPN doesn't actually provide you all that much privacy, but that's another matter. So yeah, the VPN, what actually does, it encrypts your traffic and funnels it through someone else's IP. So how it would work, you basically would be receiving traffic, like you would be transmitting traffic for someone else who is also using that VPN network. So that's how it would work. And use Tor browser. Well, some people do, but Tor is connected to a very specific network, which is, well, you know what it is. But the twist is that you don't want to do it for free. Like, you don't want to be like, because if you're just providing your bandwidth to anyone you want, like to anyone who wants to use it, like, it doesn't benefit you in any way. So you need a reward mechanism on top of that to incentivize, well, both. So it won't be like a free service, that you will have to pay for it, but it won't be paid like in a traditional way where you subscribe to Node or something like that and then just use the service. So this would be like you subscribe to the community. So the idea is combining VPN and cryptocurrencies into one. So basically you would be earning tokens, or crypto coins or anything, like something like that, while you're operating. Like if you're participating and providing bandwidth to the network of, well, this VPN network, you would be earning tokens for like a certain amount of traffic you process or let pass through. And to actually use the network yourself, like to initiate, like the sender of the data, the originator, will have to pay coins or tokens to send data, and you will receive those tokens as a reward for taking that data and transmitting it, if that makes sense. So that could be like a very open way to implement a VPN. So there are other issues that we would need to take into account, like malicious actors, how to avoid having malicious actors. But Yeah, I think the idea is, yeah, I like the idea as well. So it could be one of the, like, this is like a pitch for a direction. So if we are trying to implement that, like, for example, like it's like, it's a cool idea. So imagine if you come to the interview for a development job, and you say, "Oh, I was working on an open source VPN, which is base, well, which has its own cryptocurrency associated with it, where you earn and you pay with the cryptocurrency to use the VPN, and you earn cryptocurrency by letting other people use you as one of the VPN nodes." So, how that sounds? I'd say that sounds pretty good, because then, like, you don't have to trust a third party like let's say NordVPN. I'm sure NordVPN is great and so on, but it has some benefits compared to NordVPN. The downside could be, like, so the potential downside, which I'm not sure if it's really that big of a deal, that let's say a malicious actor is running a node, like malicious in a sense, like let's say a government, some government entity is running your node, which is, well, participating in the VPN, and let's say, well, eventually, if let's say if the network gets popular enough, you will have bad actors operating nodes in bad faith, and that would mean that your traffic that you are trying to send through a VPN will actually be monitored, could be monitored at the end node, if that's that node is operated by a malicious actor like a government entity, from which most of the VPNs are just, that's what they provide, that's the added value, that it's not easy to look in, well, it's basically not possible to look into your data between you and the VPN node that it exits at. So that's what happens to Tor network. So Tor network exit nodes. So exit node is that's the node where your actual traffic is exits the tunnel, and then it goes to the actual destination that it has to go to. So exit nodes are run by federal agencies pretty much at this point. So they want to know what people are doing. Like it's a mechanism to catch criminals who are using Tor network and so on. So monitoring, not to catching, but for monitoring them. So they have quite a lot of access, from what I understand, this way, and that's just a problem you have. And I'm not even trying to solve that problem. I don't think it's a good idea to try to solve it. I would say that if government wants to monitor it, I think it's fine. It will, well, you shouldn't be doing anything malicious anyways. So if government invests money into this, good, then maybe it has a good reason to be looking for that. But the best thing is that your ISPs won't be able to track what you're doing. That will be yeah, that sort of monitoring is actually beneficial. Well, it is beneficial to circumvent that sort of monitoring, because like if your ISP, like how much do like I trust my government a lot more than my ISP. I don't really trust my government all that much, but ISPs I trust a lot less than that. ISPs will sell anything they can about you, like they will collect as much data as possible, and they will sell as much access as possible to your data and so on, as long as it makes money for them. So their sole motivation is profit, and they don't care about your privacy. They don't have to care unless there are laws and so on. Especially like the laws are written in a way that they usually undermine your privacy. So from what I've heard, I didn't study them or anything, so I can't say for sure, but I get the impression that service providers have to like keep logs for government entities to come back to them. So if something bad happens, they can come to you and ask for certain, well, users' data, what their activity, and so on. So all of that has to be tracked by the ASP, and is tracked, and potentially can be sold to third parties who are also interested in what people are doing in general. Let's say you have a... So even Tor is now safe if I want to bomb channel. Okay. Tor is definitely not safe. You shouldn't be using Tor for malicious things. Tor is, I'd say the legit use case for Tor network and is for activists. So if you live in China and you are an activist and you want to publish some papers or documents to expose corruption or human rights abuses and so on. So for things like that, Tor is excellent. Because, well, it's excellent as long as you don't use the exit node that's run by China itself. So if China is running it, they can intercept those messages and, well, they can. I'm not really sure about the mechanics, how much they can actually do. Can they actually identify you? But they can see that this stuff is happening. So it's not as secure as people think it is. So definitely need to be careful if you're using Tor. But yeah, so these are the potential issues I can think of. But the other, let's say, since you're earning traffic, it's not really beneficial. So you need to think about cases where people try to manipulate the network to get more traffic, so, and maybe initiate fake traffic to just generate income for themselves. But I think that's neither here nor there, because well, you pay, the amount you pay will probably be greater than the amount you earn, so initiating a fake transaction is not really beneficial. And if you operate a fictitious node that doesn't actually send any data, then we can make some sort of mechanism to detect this malicious activity and just cut out that node from the network, and then it will not be receiving any traffic at all. So there are a bunch of things that you need to take into account, and it would be a complex project, but I think that's the benefit. Like, that's to its benefit, not shouldn't be seen as a downside. So, but because now let's say I don't have that many viewers who are actually interested, well, who are watching regularly or are interested in development, but eventually it might grow. And if it doesn't, like, the project will take longer to get done. But yeah, that would be one idea. But I'm open to other suggestions. If you can think of another open, like, software that we could write, I'm totally fine with that as well. And I imagine mostly it will be written in Python. Well, I barely see a difference between languages these days. Like, it could be a bit more beneficial to write in some other language, like lower level language, like C++ or something. But I'm sure Python is fine as well. Especially as an open source project. Like, not that it's special, like, it's more of a practice / open source project. It's like a learning project for people who don't have any experience. They can look through my, which is lag so much. I'm only here for commenting, watching you on YouTube. Oh, okay. Well, you can comment on YouTube as well. Like, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I need to take that into account because I thought that the delay was lower. Right. Yeah. So I'm open to other suggestions. Because the main thing is that I will provide, like, make these themed videos. I'll try to make these streams thematic. Comments are slow. Yeah, that is true. They are slow. Yeah. Well, okay. You're right in that case. So yeah, the idea would be that I run these streams themed, So each stream would have a different theme that is related to development. So if you watch, let's say, yesterday's stream, you will learn about data classes and how they look, which is, well, a very basic concept, but maybe you want to hear it explained by me. Why it's good? Because I add a lot of my own insights, like the whatever knowledge I have from working as a Java developer previously. Well, I sprinkle it all throughout the whole stream, pretty much every stream. Yeah, so I guess it could be cut down into like an episode of maybe 5 minutes, where it just shows an example, demonstrates the instance, and demonstrates my code, how it was done, how it was improved, and then how I actually made it a lot simpler using the Python's feature called data classes. Because data class, like, it's not actually a concept that's outside Python. Let's say the specific implementation of this data classes is very specific to Python, because that's where it comes from. So well, okay. It's not really the point. Today's point is implementing a singleton. So that's what I'm doing, because the issue I'm trying to solve is having all of this nonsense, having like global constants, just throwing around all of these global variables. That's not how you're like. This is just bad design, in my opinion, and it's done out of laziness to implement a proper way to manage these variables, and as well as the user context. That's the most important part for me, because user context is used a lot. Well, it is very important. So yeah, to make it more, and now since it is just a dictionary, because also the naming users, this is actually a dictionary that holds contexts, and the context is the one that actually holds the user. So that needs to be sorted out, because it doesn't really make sense, because the user has to have context, not the context would have to have the user. It's backwards pretty much at this point, so that will have to be rectified. So yeah, this is data classes. So yeah, this is from yesterday. I really like data classes now. I haven't heard of them before, but when I was studying something else, I get what I was looking for. I don't remember. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Okay, getting back to singletons, how they are actually done in Python. It appears there are multiple ways to do it. Okay, so this is a global pattern. Sample of pattern as strewn merely across the standard library, even beyond the random. Yes, okay, so these are examples. Good. So we know what pre-bound methods are. While a Sentinel doesn't have to live in a module's global namespace, some Sentinel objects are defined as class attributes, while others are provided to live inside a closure. The hell is Sentinel object? There's so much terminology I don't know. Is a standard Python approach used both in the standard library. The pattern most often uses Python built-in non-object, but none might be useful value. A unique Sentinel object can be used instead of indicate missing or unspecified data. Right. Sentinel value. Yeah, I don't really understand what from this description. A Python variant on traditional Sentinel value pattern. Okay, programming is easiest in problem domains where values are always specified. Everyone in the database is going to have a name or blah blah blah. Okay. The traditional Sentinel value pattern will be familiar to Python programmers from the string find method, while its alternative string index is more rigorous, raising an exception if it can't find the substring you're asking about. Okay. See. The value -1 is simply an integer. Try index B if A. Oh no, it's not if. So I gets assigned a value from A, and if I is -1 returned. Oh, so these are two different ways of implementing the same thing. So I guess index has the return value -1 if it fails. Index, like find what happens when your substring is not found. Okay. Returns -1 if sub is not found. So sub it looks for a substring. Okay, so that's what it refers. So Sentinel is basically a different, like a special value that gets returned if in certain cases. Okay. Having a name for such dumb thing, it seems. Okay. Does it have to have a name? Do I have to remember that name? That's the problem I have, not remembering all of these terms and special names and so on. Like these concepts are quite simple, but the naming, I can't deal with this. Interesting Sentinel pattern down in the default C language. Oh. If error. Right. Null object pattern. Sentinel objects. Finally, we come to the Sentinel object pattern itself. Okay. The standard Python Sentinel is the built-in non-object used whenever some alternative needs to be provided to an integer, float, string, or other meaningful value. For most programs, it is entirely sufficient. And this, okay, so they're just talking that none is a Sentinel object. So meaning that it's built in into Python library to an extent that it can be used in cases where you expect an integer, float, and any other built-in object or variable, like whatever. So sentinels are this, and oh, okay, we are not gonna be. Doesn't have a live. The module global name doesn't have to live. Some sentinel objects are defined as a class attributes, while others are okay. So why are we talking about this if we are not gonna be implementing this? Constant pattern. So where does it actually talk about global? Okay, so it explains computation, dunder constants. So dunder meaning, if you don't know, is the special methods surrounded by these underscores. So yeah, there is a whole fleet of those methods in Python, and like the common name for them is dunder. So dunder meaning like having these. So dunder constants are, yeah, that. Global object pattern. Okay, we come to the what this was supposed to be about. Object pattern, as in constant pattern, a module instantiates an object and ports time and assigns it a name in the module global scope. But the object does not simply serve data. It is not merely an integer string, blah blah blah. For sake of methods it offers. Right. Simple global object are mutable. Common example is compiled regular expression. So recompiler. Okay, really care about this example. Compiling a regular expression as a module global is a good example of the more general global object pattern. It achieves the elegant and safe transfer of expense from later in a program's runtime to import the time instead. Okay, so the trade-offs of using it, like declaring it in the global namespace, things like that. The cost of importing. Okay, so these will be initiated when you import the package. Okay, I guess it is a downside, but you only import once. Well, you should be importing once. I don't think there's a way to unimport something. Oh, doesn't really matter. The import time cost is now borne by every program that imports the module. So this is much the same. Okay, let's read this more careful. Cost is now borne by every program that imports the module, even if a program doesn't happen to call any code that uses the regular expression shown above. So yeah, this will be initiated, doesn't matter if you call it or not. Compiling whenever it imports the JSON module. Well, since it is in JSON, so if you import JSON, it will import this. Well, if you import JSON star or whatever, that's, I guess, yeah, it's in Python you just write import JSON. Right. Plot twist: in Python 3, the pattern is no longer even used in the module, but its name was not marked private with a leading underscore, so I suppose it's not safe to remove. And every import JSON gets to pay its cost forever. Okay, well, it's a bit of exaggeration. Oh, forever and so on. Like it's a program. Come on, it gives you an extra an extra line of code to run at runtime, at launch time, not at runtime even. Well, I guess you can be importing at runtime, but why? Why would you do that like that? But functions and methods that do, in fact, well, I guess for the libraries it could be beneficial if, like, huge parts, like if you have a massive library and you just use a small fraction of it, maybe it makes sense to only have imports triggered if you actually start using those more obscure parts of the library. So maybe in those cases I can justify, I can understand. But then just have it more distributed, like have more files, and if those files will never be accessed, then, well, I guess they will be accessed because they import itself, so the whole import tree will be went through. Oh, yeah, just okay, doesn't, it's not the point anyways. Like in the inner loop of blah blah blah, costly operation like parsing, the savings can be considerable, but functions and methods that do in fact need to use the regular expression will no longer incur a repeated cost. Oh yeah, so of compilation, the compiled regular expression is ready to start scanning a string immediately as the regular expression is used frequently, blah blah blah. So this is a downside. So how is this a downside? It doesn't, it saves time. Okay. So it makes it more readable. Well, yeah, so instead of yeah, you can define a variable and have it Yeah, I'm not really sure what this is. Byte value, what this byte value is, but as it B indicates bit. Okay. Okay, doesn't really matter. This list of trade-offs is about the same, by the way, if you move a regular expression out into a class attribute instead of moving it all the way out to the global scope. And I finally get around to writing about Python and classes, so I think a link from here to the further thoughts on class attributes. Okay, this is very long. Objects that are mutable. What about object? Blah blah blah. The rest is it just when the wrap system resources, but the nature also global to an operating system process. Okay, that's just getting too off topic in my opinion. So singleton pattern. Python was already using the singleton before. Singleton pattern was defined by the object-oriented design pattern community, so we should start by distinguishing several meanings of singleton pattern. Yeah, let's just read about the meaning, because that's the most important part. A tuple of length 1 is called a singleton. While this definition might surprise programmers, it reflects the original definition of a singleton in mathematics. Okay, I don't really care about math. Whatever it means in math, I don't care. Modules are singletons in Python because import only creates a single copy of each module. Okay, so that makes sense. This I don't care about. This makes sense because if you do an import, that's done only once, and yeah. A singleton is a class instance that has been assigned a global name. Through global object pattern, for example, so basically defined in a global namespace. For example, the official Python programming frequent asked questions answers the question, how do I share a global variable across modules? With the assertion that in Python using a module is also the basis from implementing a singleton design, because not only can modules global namespace store constants, but mutable class instances as well. Right. Individual flyweight objects that are examples. I'm trying to remember what's the difference between mutable and immutable. I know the definition in JavaScript, it used to be that the value can be none, because certain things cannot have a value none, like built-in variables, for example. So they always have to have a certain value. That's how it used to be. But in Python, well, okay, so this is a flashbang, sorry. Python mutable. Mutable versus mutable. Okay, let's see what Python has to say about that. Is there anything? Oh, what? Let's look in the documentation. I'm pretty sure it has good explanation. Mutable. And glossary. In the glossary, it could have a link to mutable. Immutable. Okay. An object with a fixed value. Those include numbers, strings, and tuples. Such an object cannot be altered. A new object has to be created if a different value has to be stored. Oh. So mutable can have its value changed. Okay. So immutable means static. Well, I would call it static because of my Java background. That's what we call it. Yeah, maybe my definition was just wrong. I just don't remember it correctly. Okay, well, guess we can continue with this. What was it talking about this? Yeah, this is the right file, the right section. Global object. That object that applying flyweight pattern. Like, I hate these names. Individual flyweight. What the hell is a flyweight? It feels like people just love naming stuff. Flyweight objects are such a perfect fit. Okay, verdict. Okay, I don't really care. I need a TLDR. Return function. So where's the actual definition? Used internally, we can see its behavior by computing the string Python two different ways. Python and Python lower, okay. Strings are natural candidates for flyweight pattern because they have all three of the key properties of flyweight object. Okay, so immutable is one, so meaning it has to create a new instance to assign a value. Python string carries no context about how it's being used. Right. Strings are important for their value, not their object identity. Okay. Gang of Four, so it's a book about object-oriented programming. Like, this is... I feel like this is very long-winded explanations. Thought it would be like, judging by the name, Python Patterns Guide. I expected higher quality. Well, I guess it's good for beginners to read through all of this, but I'm only interested in the concise definitions, because you can infer most of this. Well, I can infer most of this. Maybe I'm just being lazy. Gang of Four implementation. Okay, so this is instance, so return runtime error. Call instance instead, so it just blocks instance init method and class method. So this is the tag that will define a static, what I would call a static method. To prevent a client from creating a new instance by calling this class. Okay. So logger, yeah. So it instructs to use instance. I guess that's a cool way to implement a singleton. Does it have any more Pythonic implementation? Okay, let's look at other. Straightforward. So using new key, like, okay, web is replete. Like, by using words like these, like, I don't even know what it means. The singleton pattern recipes featuring new that each propose a more or less complicated mechanism for working around the method's biggest quirk. The fact that it always gets called on the return value, whether the object has object that's being returned to is new or not. Okay, so if you don't define it, okay, it will be called, so no, I don't really understand the complaint here, the issue. Yeah, it always calls the init, but if you don't declare it, like, it doesn't really do anything. Object is created on the first call. So if this class instance CLS is none, okay, creates oh, it passes the class super, and whatever super returns, it calls new on top of it. Put an initialization here. So it calls parents new in case you're inheriting. Object is created. Why do you have an object here? Why do you need an object to inherit from? Well, I guess you want to get the methods. Okay. Oh, I thought that's not really necessary. I thought each class of everything is an object. Don't you actually have to specifically say that you inherit from object? So at least that was my understanding. Returns the same instance. And that's what it's supposed to be. So verdict, I don't really care about the verdict. Not sure I like this approach with... I guess I could try it and see how it works. This is much more understandable, in my opinion. So it calls new side instance. So if it doesn't find the instance, so it's very, well, feels very similar to this. So this get instance, the difference being that the init, instead of, well, it defines init. Okay, this successfully prevents client. Yeah, I guess if I don't define this, if I allow people to call init, they can just create a new instance of a singleton, and that's not really the point of a singleton. And here, difference that it implements new. And how does it actually store this instance? Doesn't have anything special. Guess this is just how he writes classes. Straightforward implementation. So you assign whatever super new returns. Basically an instance of an object. If I understand correctly. Yeah, I never use these new. Okay, let's read about new, because I think that will explain a lot of things that I currently don't really fully understand. new, auto create new instance of the class. Static method that takes, yeah, now it's, so it's, okay, it is a static method. Static meaning that it can be called without having an instance. Social cased, so you need not declare it as such. It takes the class of which an instance was requested as its first argument. The remaining arguments are those passed to the object constructor expression. All to the class, blah blah blah. The return value of new should be the new object instance, usually an instance of class. Typical implementations create new instance of the class by invoking the superclass's new method using superclass, both arguments, and modifying newly created instance as necessary before returning it. If new is invoked during object creation and this returns an instance of class, then the new instance's init method will be invoked like init, where self is the new instance, meaning arguments are the same. Right. While self and the remaining arguments are the same as were passed to the object constructor. But if I call, wait, call to create new instance. So which of them calls it? Is it constructor that calls new or new calls the constructor? If new does not return an instance of class, then the new instance's init method will not be invoked. So new invokes init. Is intended mainly to allow subclasses of immutable objects to customize the instance creation. It is also commonly overridden in custom meta classes in order to customize class creation. Right. Okay, we're getting back to meta classes, and I remember reading about them, but I don't remember what specifically. I think I just disregarded it. Let's see. Let's get a quick refresh. Right. Classes type. What is excluded as a new namespace? I don't remember reading this. Class creation process can be customized by passing a meta class keyword argument. Oh, it was that, yeah, now I remember. That most people, like 99%, don't need this. So that's why I didn't really go into the details. As keyword. So this example uses the meta class. So the singleton meta has call. I define call. Singleton works, both variables contain the same instance. So S1, S2, and it compares them, okay. call. Special about what? There are a lot of special methods. Python. Called when instance is called as a function. So you call it as a function, so like a constructor, when you create a new instance. And it's called singleton like this. So you call it as this. I guess it's just to make it look fancier. Okay. Call super instance, get the instance. Argument does not affect the return instance. Changes. That's cool. I still don't fully understand why use call instead of init. Possible changes to the value of the init argument do not affect the return instance. Right. Possible changes to the value of the init argument. So init is an argument in this case. Do not affect the returned instance. When this is an argument. Conceptual example. Call an argument instead of a function. That's what it is, a built-in function. As I can. Oh. Right. Yeah, these singleton examples are quite confusing. Why do they have to make it so convoluted? Right. Straightforward implementation. I kind of like this implementation. Like, it seems to do everything you need. Object. Does it have to have this? That's the... Okay, let's try doing it without the object. Get instance. Yeah. So instance is none. And this is new. And it doesn't take self, it takes CLS. C. Then it checks CLS instance is none, then call. Oh, it calls super new and CLS. Well, in that case, it assigns CLS instance equal. I think that's how it's done. Instance super. Oh, super logger. Okay. Super accepts singleton CLS. CLS. Not sure what happens here. Well, super's supposed to return call the constructor pretty much of a parent object or parent class. Well, since it's well, imagine it will call objects constructor, passing in like what, and return instance. So like this, and CLS instance. Right, so this should work in theory. I'm just not sure about this object. So this object relationship with inheriting from an object and the super method, if they are actually related or not. Right, so now to test this, let's import singleton. And let's access I actually need to define it. Let's do from singleton import singleton, so I can just access it like that. Let's see. Okay, this before run, let's just do a dumb singleton one. Yeah, we'll do the same test they showed. So take singleton, is there a type of singleton G? Amazing, there is. Didn't notice that. Okay. Oh, there's no singleton G, there's no singleton only, so S2 singleton, and if S1 S1, if can't really type. At least it looks like it's 2. Log, debug, singleton. You know what I wanna actually do? I want to have some variables that are publicly accessible. Let's see, val is an int. And now let's assign s1 val equals 5. Then s2 val. No, let's just log. I think I can just do this. Format. Oh, I don't even need format. It takes multiple. The debug method does that for me. So let's take s2 val. So this either will crash or will run successfully. Did crash. S1 val doesn't have none type, so this returns none. Okay. So how do I actually initialize this straightforward pattern? Therefore, featuring new. Okay. Well, I guess it is important to, well, that's the only difference I see. Object. No, it didn't change a thing. So S1, when I try to assign value, it says the none object, so meaning that S1 is none displays. Let's do this again, the debugger, and see what actually is assigned. That doesn't seem to make too much sense. And window, control view, variables. Variables. Want it to be on top of this. Breakpoints next to that. Okay. Yeah, those are none. So calling singleton didn't do a thing. Oh. Didn't return anything. What happened to the return statement here? Okay, let's delete the subject again. This time actually return ls no dot instance. Right. Count post menu language. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wrote that return statement. Okay, well, it's not there somehow. Yeah, so now it runs successfully. Oh, and the level, debug level. So let's not have info. Right, again. Oh. Message singleton arguments 5. Also, I guess the 5 was assigned, so S2 has the access to the variables, and those are the same instance, so basically that's why it has. I think it has to be a string to work. Try again. Oh, it still crashes. So logging doesn't like what I do here. Am I doing this wrong? 0? That's what it wants. Oh, I guess I'm thinking about a different method, it just doesn't have it. So, okay, format. Really an issue. Let's see, singleton. Start config outdated. So it's after initialization updating. Yeah, it says singleton 5. So basically it works as is. So we have an instance and a bunch of variables they can access globally. Right. So I guess this is the singleton done. Now I just need to I need the... what's its name? To actually save the values. Right, so this is the pattern implemented, I guess, in a very simple way. So now I actually have to go, but in the next stream I will basically migrate this whole code. Yeah, this was a very long... This took way longer than it should for the amount of for the result I got, but I guess, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Oh, inter event, why do I have this? Wait. Oh, so this is leftover unfinished other things. Right, and now I want... yeah, so basically I will move this configuration management into the singleton, so this will become a lot cleaner. Like, it has a lot of configuration related stuff in here. Maybe even get user data could be moved somewhere else. Handle user message, get user data, start, maybe not. Maybe this makes sense. We'll see. But yeah, I'll start moving stuff into the singleton, especially all of this global stuff, because that's not how it's supposed to be done. Right. But yeah, for now I'm done. I have to go. And yeah, this evening I will be refactoring a lot. Well, I'll be doing a lot more coding, not just reading theory. Well, theory is pretty much done. Now I just need to implement it in practice. Right, okay, well, I can end